Welcome to Investories, unlocking the investing mindset and business strategies of high-performing individuals to level up your financial game, crush your goals, and build a life fulfilled. This is the show that asks the questions you wish you knew to ask. This is Investories.
Booyah! Welcome to the Investories podcast with me, your host, John Hooper. How are you today? I hope you're having a great day. Really excited to bring you the guest today, Rod Khleif. If you're in real estate investing, you probably know that name. Rod's been around for a long time. That sounds really negative. Sorry, Rod. He's a serial investor, serial entrepreneur. He's kind of ridden out the peaks and troughs of markets, and he's refined his business doing that. Rod is one of those rare people that just exudes kind of an energy. It's really infectious, and you'll see that in the interview. He's got over 20 years experience, and he moved into real estate very early on, but he's taken time over his career to refine what that means. He talks a lot about kind of the innovation and discipline, how he's built his reputation, and how he's kind of felt through market cycles, and how he's kind of adjusted through that process as well. And then finally, he really talks about the kind of the entrepreneurial giving back piece, right? So what gives him energy now is to give back. It's to have conversations with people, it's to share his knowledge, it's to do charity work, those kind of things. And that's really apparent. He's got a passion and a drive for what he does, and it really keeps him going. Speaking of giving back, we need something from you. I need something from you. If you're listening to this, you're getting value, you like what we do here, and you want to see us grow and do more, please do like us and write a review on whatever platform you're using. So if you're on YouTube, hi, and thank you so much for clicking. And please do, feel free to share and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you're listening on a podcast app, then a 5-star review would be greatly appreciated. It really helps us, helps me do what I'm doing, and helps me grow the show and the team grow the show. So anything like that is really, really helpful and thankful. And anyway, enough of my gibbering on about getting likes and subscribers. So thank you. Here's the interview with Rod. Welcome to Investories, Rod Khleif. Hey, Rod.
Hey, buddy. What's happening? We're across the country from each other, but we're still both in beautiful places. So, life is good.
Something about the beach, right?
That's it.
And needing water.
Yeah. That's it. I have to have it.
As a Brit from pretty much all coastline, I need the coastline in my life somehow. Rod, I'm super appreciative you're here. Thank you so much. And let's dive right in. I kind of so I followed your story for a long time, and obviously I see social media Rod, and there's business Rod and investing Rod, and I kind of want to get to the nub of how you've got to where you've got to. If that's not too broad a question, can you kind of give me that's a great question.
Sure. Well, I'm just going to give you a bit of my story then. So I'm a Dutch immigrant. So I was born close to where you were born, in Holland, wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother Svancha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and really struggled initially. I remember we ate expired food because it was cheaper than real food. They had an expired food store, believe it or not, and we drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. And I remember wearing clothes, some hand-me-down clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I finally got disgusted when I was 14 and lied about my age at Burger King to get a job flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes and then ultimately buy a car, which every kid at that age wants. And so, I know people listening may have had it harder than I did. I knew, but I knew at that point that I wanted more. And, excuse me, I knew I wanted more. And so, luckily my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat and so on and so forth. And with her babysitting money, she was quite an entrepreneur. So she invested in the stock market successfully, and she also invested in real estate. And her first real estate acquisition was a house directly across the street from us. She bought when I was about 14 for about 30 grand. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that it had gone up in value that much. And I'm like, what? And this is when 20,000 was a lot of money. I'm like, what? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I was actually a broker. I could have my own office. They got smart since then. You have to have some experience to be a broker. And I was luckily smart enough not to start my own office. I went and worked for somebody else. But, you know, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was real money. And so what I'm known for talking about is what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income. And so what happened was I met a guy, he's actually the broker I was working for, that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that. It's your mindset and psychology. I mean, before we started recording, I told you, I think your listeners get more value from this topic than the mechanics of real estate, because honestly, I even tell my coaching students, my warriors, it's not about the technical knowledge. In our business, it's about the relationships, and it's about your energy and your mindset and your psychology, that you actually take action with what you learn. And so, I met this guy, and since then I've owned 2,000 houses that I've rented long term. I now own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Wow. And if you want to do the math on that, it's about $8,300 an hour, which I did, of course. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008 and 9. In 2008, I lost $50 million conservatively. Wow. And so, like I said, what I'm known for talking about is the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but definitely as importantly, maybe more importantly, is the mindset it took to recover from that. Because, I thought I was set for life. So I'm happy to drill down on that some if you'd like.
Yeah, I think one of the things I find really interesting, and I've kind of come up with a term for this, and it's, you kind of glossed over it, which is at 18, you found this broker and you got in with them and learned from them and absorbed. How did you get into that room? How did you unlock that room? I'm really interested.
You're not going to like the answer. I was dating his daughter. Okay, so I'm
nothing
not stupid.
wrong with that.
and he was a broker, and I was just impressed with him because he had this incredible energy, and I had so many funny stories about some of the things he used to do. I remember getting on his knees in front of a seller, begging her for a listing once. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Wow. But it was just he just had that mindset and psychology that anything is possible. And again, he started me on that, on that path of self-discovery about my own mindset and psychology. And then I spent over 20 years with Tony Robbins, who's the best in the world at it, and was on his team for a while. And so, and that, thank God I had that experience, because that's how I was able to recover. And, and one of the things that Tony does at most of his events, and the first thing we do at my boot camps, and by the way, if you're listening, I've got one coming up. It's virtual. I don't sell anything there, and I'll give you a code. You can come for $100, literally $97. Yeah, it's a kind of a no-brainer. 2 days of training right here. It'll be virtual. I'll be doing it right here in this studio, and I don't sell anything. So for $97, if you're serious about this, there's no excuse.
You get the sauce for $97.
That's it. That's it. It's kind of silly, but one of the first things we do is goal setting. I call it goal setting on steroids. Because why? Because you've got to create a burning desire. It starts with that. You've got to have a hunger to push through the fear, to push through the limiting beliefs you may have, to get uncomfortable. That comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we all know nothing freaking grows there, right? So, you've got to have that. It starts with that burning desire. So one of the first things we do is that goal setting workshop. And like I said, that's at my boot camp, but that boot camp is January 6th and 7th. If you can't make it, if you go to rodslinks.com, and if you're driving, text the word links to 72345. At the bottom of my link tree is my goal setting workshop. Okay, I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Go do it. There's a guide you can download. Have your kids, if they're over 10 years old, do it. If have your spouse do it. See how aligned you are in your goals. Here's the thing, John. People spend more time planning a freaking Christmas party than they do designing their lives, and that's 100%. Designing your life. Yeah. So if you think you can come to my boot camp on January 6th and 7th, it's a weekend. And you can get the recordings for a very nominal upcharge. But the point is, if you think you can make that, then don't bother, because we'll do it together live at that boot camp. But if not, go to Rod's Links, do the goal setting. It's something you should do 2 or 3 times a year anyway, and build that hunger, because that's how you push through fear and limiting beliefs and get uncomfortable to create that magnificent life. That's how you grind for a few years like most people won't, so you live the rest of your life like most people can't. It starts with the goal setting. And then you got to make a decision, and I don't mean dip your toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it is freaking done, okay? When you make that decision, it is done. And a great analogy by the way, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off, like you're cutting off any escape from that decision. So an example of that would be if you're going to attack the island, you burn your ships. That way you have to take their damn ships home. That's a decision, okay?
Yeah.
And then once you've made that decision, you're committed. And when you're committed, you're like a train off on a track. You're not going to get derailed. And if you're just interested, you're going to get knocked off track. And so, when you make that decision, you get committed. It's no longer a dream. It becomes an outcome. See, that motivation will get you started, but that commitment after a decision is what's going to bring you home. And so, so you've done your goals, you've made a decision, then you got to take the first step. You actually have to do something,
Massive action. Yeah.
Massive freaking action. And I will tell you, Dr. Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu, thousands of years ago, said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But sometimes that could be the biggest step of your life. And those of you that are analytical, I know you're out there, and I love you, and you're some of the most you as well. You're some of the most successful, some of the most successful people in the multifamily business. Those of you that are analytical, but I know that you need to check off every single box before you make a move. You cannot do that. You'll never get anywhere. Okay.
100%.
Here's the analogy I want you to remember. You can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlights only seeing 50, 60 feet in front of you, and you can make it. You may have some obstacles, but other people have made it before you. It's the same way with your goals, and it's the same way with this multifamily business, but you got to take the first step. And I will tell you, there's something in our business we call the law of the first deal. I see it with my students, and I have a coaching program. It's called My Warriors, so I'm going to brag for a minute. They now own, I believe we're at about 180,000 units, and I've only been teaching 5 years. I'm very, very proud of that. But I see it with them sometimes. That first deal, it's the hardest, it's the scariest, it takes the longest, and then they get one. Next thing I know, they have 3. I'm like, what just happened? And it's because it's that, that first one's the scariest. But here's the thing. If you are analytical and you are hesitant and you get caught up in analysis by paralysis, and you know who you are, just remember this life is not a dress rehearsal. Don't fear failure. Fear freaking regret. There was this nurse in Australia. Her name was Bronnie Ware, and she was a hospice nurse. And so she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them a question, John, and the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. And you know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life. Not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So that's the next piece. You take that first step, and then you've got to be able to deal with fear and maybe any limiting beliefs that you have. And so we'll talk about fear first. So what is fear? F everything and run. That's what most people think it is, right? I like to think it's false evidence appearing real, for sure, in most cases. But I also like to think it's face everything and rise. And I will tell you, successful people have fear. They just push through in spite of it, okay? And so you've got to have that mindset. Now let's talk about limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to this country, I didn't speak English. I spoke Dutch and even a little bit of Arabic and Hebrew, believe it or not. But that's a long story. But the point is, I didn't speak English. Got thrown into school, discovered what bullies were for the first time. And I got a prop back here I got to show you. Hang on. And so, yeah. So my mom...
We will put this on YouTube, so...
Yeah. But those of you watching, I'm holding up my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, sent me to school in these wooden shoes, and these are the actual shoes. We found them when she went into assisted living. No, they're terrible. And these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my ass kicked again, as you can imagine. And then, the bullies some of them lived at the end of our street, and they'd chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So the next day, butt kicking. And I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? Which obviously presupposed I wasn't. Now, a lot of people have these limiting belief systems. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. Here's the thing to remember. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS. because 99% of them are BS, okay? They have no basis in fact, but we believe they're real. So if you have one of these, like I did, you know, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of a class with 10 kids in it. Wow. Now I speak in front of, 1,200,000 or more people at a time with flip-flops on, because I just don't care. The point is to mitigate those limiting beliefs, you got to pull them out of the daylight when they come up consciously look at them, recognize that they're BS, and they will diminish. If you look at them with your adult rational mind, they will diminish. And so the next piece, go ahead, please.
The belief
I'm
thing,
blabbering.
I mean, I got told that you should just expose them, and if you expose them and talk about them, explore them, they just become ridiculous.
Yeah, like exactly. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. Same thing.
There's no one older than me doing real estate. Well, there is. There's no one younger than me doing real estate. Well, those kind of things.
I've got multimillionaires that are in their like 21, 22, and some that are in their 70s that are in my Warrior program. And and so you're right. Age is, but see, it's a story we tell ourselves, though, right?
It is 100%. Right. And I think on the fear bit, I've got a theory on people dealing with fear, partly based on kind of my experience, which is I was always like, oh, what if someone says no? And now I think my fear is, what if they say yes? What if they say yes, you can buy that apartment building? And I'm like, oh, crap, I got to go and buy this now.
Right.
It's kind of strapping on your big boy pants and going, well, I'm going to step away from this. I'm a creature of comfort. I'm going to step away from my little habitat of comfort that I've crafted around myself.
You have to. Listen, Tony Robbins has a great quote. The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of discomfort you can take. And if you look back on any amazing thing you've ever done in your life, I promise you got uncomfortable. And so just remember that. Don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. I got a cold plunge a while back, and it is cold, okay? And I get in it for 5 minutes a day to remind myself, first of all, it's incredible. If you have the ability to get one. Trust me, you'll thank me. But to remind myself to get uncomfortable, it's super important. And by the way, guys, opportunity is freaking coming. I'm telling you this, the proverbial what is about to hit the fan in commercial real estate. There was a top economist that just, in fact, I got a text here. Let me open it up real quick. I got a text from one of my team members this morning with a headline, which was, where is it? Oh, here it is. Yeah, top economist who predicted the 2008 housing crash says the commercial real estate bubble is about to burst. We are already seeing it, okay? It's coming. We've got an asset right now that we're going to have under contract today or tomorrow that was listed for $28 million. We're getting for $20, okay? That's which is extraordinary. Now, if you are an accredited investor and you're interested in investing, text the word partner to 72345 and get on our calendars and chat with us about it, because that's coming down the pike soon. But anyway, so the next piece I want to mention is focus. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus, and wherever your focus goes, your energy is going to flow. And I'm going to tell you, if you have incredible focus, you're going to have incredible success. But whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative, right? And so I get, Mother Teresa got asked if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. See the difference in play on words? I get asked, how do I get out of student loan debt? I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money the debt's irrelevant, right? That's the right question. You've got to focus on what you want. And the other thing is you don't want to mitigate your focus, okay? Because you want to minimize distractions. And, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll be on Netflix and I'll be scrolling through this damn, social media. Yeah. And here's the problem with that. Your brain is making these micro decisions every split second, like splits of seconds, and it kills your focus, okay? And I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. But I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. So I've got a podcast. By the way, if you're interested in multifamily, you really should check out my podcast as well. I think we're over 20 million downloads now. It's the largest in the world of its kind. And you'll learn a lot if you give it a listen.
It's
if
a
you
great
go to
show.
that,
yeah.
Thank you, my friend. It's if you go to Rod's links, there's my link tree. There's a bunch of free books there. If you text links to 72345, all the resources there, free books, my podcast link, my boot camp site. By the way, if you want to come to my boot camp, remember the code Hooper, John's last name. We'll use that as a code. Is that okay with you, buddy?
I've made it.
Okay.
I've made it.
Yeah. So, all right. Hooper's the code. You come for $97. Nothing gets sold there. It's like 16 to 18 hours of training, nothing being sold for a whopping $97. So don't complain to me. But I will tell you, let me just say this, okay? I mean, don't complain about the price.
Don't complain to me either.
Yeah, don't complain about the price. If you don't love it, if you pay the $97, you don't love it, I'll give you your money back. I don't mean like it. I mean love it. I'll give you your money back. It's never happened, but there's a first time for everything. But anyway, the point is, if you go to that site, my podcast is there. Start listening to it, because here's the other thing. Not only are you going to hear great interviews with huge operators, and a lot of my students, which are huge operators as well, but I do a clip every week called Own Your Power, and it's motivational. And going through the you-know-what storm we're about to go through, focus is so important. And you want to be bringing in good stuff. Don't get caught up in the news, and don't get me started on the freaking politics and all the crap that, I mean, you don't even know what to believe on the news anymore. So you've got to bring in the good stuff and do your goals, stay focused on your goals, stay motivated, listen to those Own Your Power clips on my podcast. And that's how you're going to capitalize on what's coming, because it's coming. And it could be the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes, but you got to get up to speed. So I don't care if you don't want to do multifamily. I think there's going to be opportunity in businesses. There'll be opportunity in single family, other asset classes like self-storage, mobile home parks, whatever. If you want to do multifamily, you're crazy not to come to my boot camp. But the point is, opportunity is coming. So back to focus for a second. So I listened to two podcasts, Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. And they are on both sides of the aisle. Okay, I'm definitely on one side. I can tell you that. But the point is, on Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world. Okay, and I get excited about my 20 million downloads. These guys get that a week on their show, so to give you some perspective. Yeah. Okay, but Tim Ferriss interviews the best of the best in the world, like the best actors. Mike. Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Foxx, the best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, CEOs like Ray Dalio,
those are the ones I tune in
Zuckerberg.
For sure.
I mean, big hitters, and he deconstructs their success. It's a very intellectual conversation, but I started to hear a pattern with these world-class operators in every walk of life. Almost all of them meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, okay? That's what we call a clue, my friends.
You're preaching to me now, Rod, because that was the game changer for me, was a couple of things you just touched on. One is, so what's really interesting, you said about like scrolling through social media and it just burns your focus. And it actually, you can invert that, because if you consume things like this podcast, like Rod and Rod's podcast and YouTube videos and things about multifamily and fundraising, the algorithm starts to learn what you like, and it starts to readjust, and it starts to realize, actually, you don't like all the news and FUD and crap around politics. You like the stuff that's going to educate you, and it will start feeding you that. So why not let it feed you positive things? The other thing is the meditation as a pause at the start of your day. It sounds really weird to say pause at the start of a day, but it's almost like drawing a huge breath. And that like I come out of a meditation first thing in the morning, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I'm just like, let's go. I'm wired. I am the most awake I've been. I've only just woken up. It's so interesting.
You're absolutely dead on. I just interviewed Hal Elrod on my show, and he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and he wrote a sequel to it. He's a beautiful human being. But the point is, to start off your day right, like you just described, and one of the pieces is meditation or prayer. That's one of his pieces. You journal. Okay, he calls it scribing, but it's journaling, where you just, that gives you clarity. You exercise for sure, and that is, and just focus on manifesting your goals. And I'm going to tell you, it is an incredible way to start your freaking day. So I love to hear that you do it as well, John. The next piece I want to mention is you want to play to your strengths, especially in the multifamily space. See, in multifamily game, there are lots of different hats you can wear. You can be the person that finds the deals. You can be the person that raises the money. You can be the person that underwrites the deals if you're analytical. You could be the person that does the asset management if you've got some construction or management experience or any project management experience. So there's a lot of different hats you can wear. You want to play to your strengths, okay? And why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets, okay? You don't want to maximize your weaknesses. You get success much faster if you're maximizing your strengths. What you want to do is play to your strengths and then hire or align or partner for your weaknesses. And when you see, and here's why. Because when you're playing in your strengths, you love what you do. and work is play, and you never work another day in your life. I'm going to tell you, I'm here doing this podcast with you because I freaking love it, okay? And I make a lot more money from my acquisitions. I've got thousands of apartment units, but I love the teaching, and I love the love I get every day from my students because, I literally get love every single day. I get a DM, an email, gift card. I got a wall with hundreds of thank you cards on it.
That's amazing.
In my office. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a gift. But the point is, it's because I love what I do. And so some of the best partnerships I see in this business are someone that's analytical and maybe introverted with someone who's super extroverted that's out there building relationships, because both pieces are required. And so, here's the thing, don't live somebody else's life. Live your life, do what you enjoy. And then work is play, and you don't have to work. You're really not working, you're having fun. And here's the other piece. If you're working in what you love, you're going to be passionate. And passion is required to influence people. And so, like I say, and when you're operating from your passion, it massively enhances your ability to influence. And it also, it's the fuel, right? It's the fuel. Mm-hmm. So don't settle, don't play small, discover what juices you and inspires you, and do that. And passion breeds creativity and innovation, and honestly minimizes or even eliminates fear. And that's why you want to do what you love in this business. And then, I would encourage you to, like I say, hire a line or partner for your weaknesses. Another quick story I'll tell you, when I was losing everything in 2008 and 9, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership, which is a high-level mastermind. It was about 130 grand back then. It's more than that now. But I was around people that were killing it in the crash. I mean, they were thriving. They just had businesses that actually capitalized on what was happening. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million schmillion, go make something happen. Now, is that who you want to be around when what hits the fan? You better believe it.
Yeah.
So pay attention to who you're hanging around with. Here's the sad reality. Most people default to people they work with or they went to school with. And you show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your health, your happiness, definitely your finances. So,
and Rod, that feeds back into those limited beliefs, right? You get that negative validation cycle. You can't do that. Did you have that?
People connect through pain. People connect through pain like that. And you get these naysayers, and sometimes it's family. And I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose your freaking peers who you allow to influence you. That's why my warrior group is so incredible. My coaching students, they're killing it. Every day there's another deal closed. And most of those deals are done between warriors because they validate each other, they praise each other, they help each other, they encourage each other. It's extraordinary. They also are very philanthropic. I'm going to tell you, my warriors do make the world a better place. We did a Hall of Fame in Denver a couple of years ago for my warriors, and for the exemplary ones that helped other warriors. And I had about 15 of them come up, and we did a slide for each one, and I started to notice a pattern. Every single one of them gives back in some fashion. Sexual trafficking, building schools in India, veterans homelessness, veteran suicide, all these causes.
Wow.
And I pointed to the 1,000 people there. I'm like, that's what we call a clue, guys, okay? Same thing happened in my Orlando boot camp in September. So you want to be around people that think like that aren't afraid of success, that, when you tell them you're doing a $20 million deal, they're like, okay, no big deal. Let me help you. We'll figure out how to do it together, because a rising tide lifts all ships. So be very, very careful who you allow to influence you, especially if this is just a dream for you right now, because that dream is a fragile thread. Don't allow anybody to break it, okay? You want to be around people also that think what you think is hard is easy, right? If you want to learn tennis, do you want to play somebody worse than you or better than you, right? You know the answer. And so, get around people that want that, and success is inevitable, because who you surround yourself with is who you become. So
Rod, I'm going to ask you, so in terms of getting around the right people, and I have this theory that there's an edge and a wedge, and this is more working with the right people, but you kind of find the edge to get in there. So what do they need? How can you help, and how can you connect?
Well, that's the big one. How can you help? How can you add value? Then you kind of
wedge that in. How would you get around the right people, the right team?
Well,
the right peers?
I don't want to brag on my coaching program, but if you are interested in applying, text the word CRUSH to 72345 so we can help you crush it. Again, that's crush to 72345. But if you don't want to do that, no worries. Just get around, go to a meetup group that does multifamily in your local market.
Easiest way, right?
Find out who's doing what you want to do and get around them, and that's how you do it. And then think about how you can add value. If you're analytical, learn how to underwrite. And by the way, if you come to my boot camp, you get my deal evaluator software. And if if you're one of those people that loves that stuff, then it's the best out there. I can just say that hands down. Somebody on my team built it, and it is kick butt. But so do that. If you're the one that likes to meet other people, go build relationships to raise money or find deals. So you just gotta figure out how you're going to add value to the people you meet that have done this. And by the way, everybody that does this business, that does a larger deal, does it with somebody that's done it before. Like they call it a sponsor. And that's why the Warriors, like I said, are so successful, because there's dozens of sponsors in there, dozens, literally. And I sponsor as well. Out of the 5,000 plus, I've done 5,000 plus with my students' units in the last 4 years.
Wow.
But the point is, that's how everybody does it, because when you're talking to a broker or you're talking to a seller, you can use the we word, and you align with somebody that's got 100 units, 200, 500, 1,000. You say, we have 1,000 units, and you use the we word, and that's how it works. And that's how everybody does it, by the way. And then you do your first couple, and then they're on your resume, and you're off to the races for yourself. But that's how everybody starts.
You become the we, right?
You become the we, exactly. So let's talk about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think that's really interesting, and the finding your tribe piece, be it nothing wrong with it being paid, but the low hanging fruit is just to wander into your local meetup. Go on, there's so many Facebook groups. I will tell you,
it's tougher to find the multifamily ones. There are a lot of single family ones, but you want a multifamily one. Okay, here's the thing. I've owned 2,000 houses, and I will never own another one unless it's a third, fourth, fifth house for me. It's not. It's just not worth it. And we don't have time in this conversation for me to describe why, but I'll just tell you real fast. If you have one house, and even if your cash flow is $200 or $300 a month, when they move out, if they've damaged it at all, you're going to have $3,000 to $5,000 in repairs. You're going to have 2 months empty, and you've just lost your cash flow for 2 years. So, and I've owned 2,000 houses, so I can speak that I've rented long term, so I can speak credibly about this. I know what I'm talking about there, and that's why I started my podcast. When I did 7 years ago, it's like to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily. Because when the market crashed, it was my single family that pulled me down. I had 800 houses, and that's why I crashed. And so, it was the houses that pulled me down. My multifamily did just fine. If I hadn't cross-collateralized my apartment complexes with packages of houses, I'd still have those apartment complexes. They pulled back a little bit, but they survived. And that's the thing. Multifamily is much more resilient and safer. And frankly, it's a hell of a lot easier, believe it or not, to buy a 20 unit than it is to buy a duplex or a house. It just is, because they're not looking at your personal income. They're looking at the property's ability to service the debt. It's actually easier. But the next thing I want to talk about, I've just got a couple more pieces, and then I'll land the plane here.
Love
it. Is failure. So many people fear failure, but the bottom line is we fail our way to success. Problems and setbacks are really, they're feedback. You don't grow unless like if you come to my boot camp January 6th and 7th, on Monday, you'll get a survey from us saying, what'd you think? What'd you like? What'd you hate? And 99% of the stuff's positive, but I'm looking for the 1% that's constructive that can make it better, because I want to always make it better. Problems give you feedback, but I'll tell you the other thing is, don't fear failure. I got to meet, now I'll tell you this personally, I've built 27 businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, several worth tens of millions of dollars. I have 2 right now that are. Most, however, I call them seminars. I don't call them failures. That was a $50 million seminar. It was a very expensive freaking learning opportunity.
It was a good lesson.
So 27 businesses, several worth tens of millions, most spectacular flaming seminars, okay? See, we fail our way to success.
I'm stealing that, Rod.
Yeah, that's a good one. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, a woman named Sarah Blakely. That's the women's that holds all the stuff together under their clothes. And she's a beautiful human being. She started with $5,000 and she's a billionaire. She was in Forbes. And she told me that her dad, we were at a mastermind. I do a lot of masterminds myself. Learners are earners. You want to continually be learning and around people. I don't just talk this stuff. I live that talk. And she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother on a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what a great freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. So if you've got kids that are still impressionable and still like to hear what you say, please do that. My God, so they don't fear failure. So the last thing I want to talk about is gratitude. Gratitude is the most important foundational emotion that we have available to us. It makes our heart stronger. It makes us stronger when we face adversity. It strengthens our immune system, lowers our blood pressure, brings us closer to our spirituality, and it's how you manifest everything you want in life, okay? Gratitude attracts what you want in life. So, I'm going to lose a few of you on this, but I will tell you, most mornings I will sit and I will do gratitude for 2 minutes for the people I love in my life, but then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I've got my vision boards right there so I can see them because I need to visualize. And sometimes I'll get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet, okay? Why? Because it freaking works, okay? This is how I had $50 million to lose and how I got it back. So ignore it at your peril is all I will tell you. And I'll share one last story with you. So when I lived in Denver, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. There's no beach in Denver, but I would visualize. It's in the middle of the country. I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and living on the beach. And 20 years later, I built this amazing, what's now probably about a $25 million home on the beach. It was about $8 million when I owned it. And just to describe it, I had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get the pool. It was in magazines. It's incredible. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, wine cellar, elevator. I owned the beach on one side, and I had my boats on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay, so it was a slice through an island. It was really cool. And I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. Mm-hmm. So I worked for this thing for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove that I was good enough, okay? And I thought that's what it would take. But I'm looking up at this, and this is 2 months after I moved in. That it's something I worked for 20 years. I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. Wow. I mean like holy shit depressed. And there were several things happening, John. There's a message in this. So one is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. The second thing is it's never about the goals. You need them to create that hunger and that burning desire, but it's about who you become on your path to your goals. And happiness comes from progress and growth. It never comes from achieving the goal. That's very short-lived. Happiness comes from continual progress and growth. So that was the second thing. But the third thing, the big one, was I was totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. Well, that's the year I went and saw Tony because I'm like, I got to get my mojo back. This is bad. And so I got one of his books. I read it. And I'm like, holy crap, this is good. I went and saw him live in Fort Lauderdale 23 years ago. And I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I was like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. Cool. I'm embarrassed to say that I had to be 40 to get that memo. Well, I went back. I called my brother in Denver. I said, bro, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving because I was going back there to visit him. And he called his church, found 5 families who really needed help. And we bought boxes of food and toys for the kids if they had them and frozen turkeys and roasting pans, everything. And we get to the third house and this Hispanic woman comes out. She's in this crappy 1-bedroom with 5 kids. Her husband had left not that long ago. And she comes out, she sees all this stuff on the porch, she starts crying. Her kids come out, 3 of them start crying, maybe 2 of them. A couple of them started crying. I started crying. And I was hooked. In the last 23 years, I've fed over 140,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Hillsborough County, Tampa, and Pinellas County, and St. Pete as well. I've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local children. I've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in a vehicle if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. I am not bragging. I am telling you that power moves to those who serve. And And Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily? Get your butt to my freaking boot camp, okay? It's $97. Yeah. There's no excuse, okay? That's a science. But fulfillment is an art, okay? So you got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the environment or the elderly. Whatever it is, give back right now. Don't say, well, you had money, that's why you gave back. You want the money faster? Give back right now. You know, we've been taught, John, to achieve, to be happy. If you give back, you're happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but it's an important one, okay?
I love that.
So give back immediately, and success will come faster. You don't do it for that reason. But that's, out of all the things I just said, that's the most important.
I think, and it's that thing of like the duality, right? You're building two different things, and there's one that you got to and looked up at and went, meh. And the other one's like, actually, I see that now. I see the value in that, and the value in, you know, what you've achieved, and that as part of kind of who you are. It's been a keystone.
What you give, you get. And a lot of people never get that epiphany that I had when I was 40. I interview billionaires on my show. I've interviewed mega millionaires, and I can tell if they're like I was prior to that epiphany that I had. And I will tell you, I feel sad for them because they may have financial success, but they are not fulfilled and truly happy in the deepest sense. You want to be happy, you give back. That's how you have true happiness. And like I said, I told you about my students that are super successful, that they all give back in some fashion. And again, that's what we call a clue.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I guess
Thank you.
That's a huge motivator as well, to kind of loop all the way back around to the
That's a great
front.
why. If you do my goal setting workshop, if you go to Rod's links and do the goals, if you don't want to come to my boot camp, do the goals. You'll find that I make you come up with why your goals are an absolute must, because it's the why that's a driver. And if you have that why, it's got to be outside of you. It can't be just so I can buy myself a car and this and this. You're going to do more for others than you'll ever do for yourself. So you use that. That's the freaking fuel. Okay, that why is the fuel, and you want to use that, you know, to make it better for your family and maybe make the world a better place too.
Rod, one thing I really wanted to ask you about, and this was really from, you know, growing that business and losing everything and going back round. A lot of people start to make money, and they start to, and I think this ties in with what we just talked about, they start to have lifestyle creep, and they start to want to keep up with the Joneses, or maybe that was their motivator in the first place. What did that look like for you when you started
question. Yeah,
making
good question.
it?
Yeah. Good question. I've had the Rolls Royce. I still have a Bentley, but I've had all, you know, the Lamborghini, the Maserati, the Pantera, the Corvettes. I've had all the cars, you know, the houses. And you know what's interesting is as you evolve, your goals evolve. And you know, the biggest thing I bragged about was my student success. And that's not bullshit. I literally get love every single day. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, he's trying to sell stuff. No, I'm not. I am addicted to the feedback that I get from people's success. And I love it. And I get recognized. I got recognized at a mall yesterday. I mean, it's just such a rewarding thing to impact people. That's a goal for me. Okay. That's a big goal. Now I've got a couple material goals. I'd like to have a jet at some point. You know, I can fly privately now, but you know, I'd like to have my own plane and you know, stupid shit like that. But you know, that's the kind of juicy stuff you want to you know, that carrot in front of your face to get you to move faster. You need that too. But the why, when you help other people, whew, that's when it's really, you know, like I bought my parents a house here on a canal. I bought them a car. I took them on cruises. You want to talk about rewarding? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, so you know, that's a why that will get your butt out of bed, you know, and get you to get up early, stay up late, grind, like I said, for a few years like most people won't, and then you live the rest of your life like most people can't.
What I find interesting, Rod, and with people like yourself, is this level of authenticity, and it shines through.
Thank you.
You want people to succeed. You're open about who you are, where you've come from, and where you're going, and that's super interesting. And I think in the social media age, it's so easy to kind of get hoodwinked. by inauthenticity.
Oh yeah, you'll see people standing in front of other people's cars and getting on a private plane that they just walked up to at an airport or whatever. But listen, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. That's the word that's used to describe me most often. I lay it all out there, sometimes to a fault. But I will tell you, you come to my boot camp. Within the first 5 minutes, you'll hear about the most painful moment of my life. Because it's part of my story, and it was telling my kids we were getting a divorce. It was horrible. First few times I said it, I cried. And so, and that transparency, people appreciate, and yeah, I lost a lot of freaking money, and it sucked, okay? But use me as an example of recovering from failure. I'm about to do a TED Talk on that, actually, recovering from failure, but use me as an example for that and learn from it. And because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to get your nose bloodied, you're going to get your butt kicked. But when you recognize there's always a light at the end of that tunnel, and what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And if you lose more than 50 million, then you call me and I'll commiserate with you. Okay, I haven't met anybody yet, but otherwise, stop your whining and go kick ass and make it happen.
Love that, Rod. Thank you so much for your time today. I really do. Oh,
thank you, brother.
You're
thank
you. Incredibly busy man. So thank you
so
much.
I've enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me on, my friend.
Awesome, Rod. Thank you. And I'll put all the links to. I've been furious scribbling notes, so I'll put all the links in the
it's Rod's links. If you just remember Rod's links and you go text links to 72345, all my stuff is there, and there's a lot of free stuff there. And again, come to the boot camp. I'm not going to sell you anything. You'll just learn this business, and you can capitalize on what's coming. Because if you're trying to learn it a year from now, it's going to be too late. You need to learn. You're going to need to pick your vehicle and learn it immediately. If you're going to buy businesses, learn that. If you're going to learn a different asset class of real estate, learn it immediately. Because the clock is ticking. I just told you about the deal I'm buying right now. They're already coming out of the woodwork. So
is that clock ticking because? And I meant to ask you about this.
Because so much debt is coming due. Short-term debt is coming. There's 1.6 trillion in debt coming due by the end of next year. And those people either have to sell or refinance. Neither one look good right now. The sales are down 85, 90%. It's hard to sell. Refinances are next to impossible because of the debt service coverage requirements. So, and the rate caps that people have to come up with. So we're going to see some carnage and incredible opportunity. Okay. So
what do you think that timeline's going to look like?
If I knew that, brother, I'd be on the back of my 300-foot yacht already.
It was worth a shot, right, Rod?
Yeah, I wish, man. But anyway, you take care, brother. I appreciate you having me on, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Invest Stories. If you like what you've heard, please consider sharing and writing a 5-star review.